Success and Professional Development with the Graduate School at UTSA. And thank you for joining us for our final Career Pathways guest speaker session as part of our series for the spring 2025 semester. I'm happy to introduce Dr. Jodi Yellin, who is the Director of Research Workforce Training and Science Policy at the Association of American Medical Colleges. Jodi is responsible for the AAMC's policy agenda, focusing on biomedical research, training, and the research workforce. She serves as a principal investigator for AAMC's career development program for maximizing opportunities for scientific and academic independent career scholars, and a research education cooperative agreement funded by the National Institutes of Health's National Institute of General Medical Sciences, designed to facilitate the transition of promising postdoctoral researchers from diverse backgrounds into independent faculty members at research-intensive institutions. She also serves as a liaison for the AAMC Group on Research Education and Training, a professional development group that serves the interests of nearly 600 medical school graduate deans, program directors, and administrators that have responsibility for biomedical PhD, MD, PhD, and postdoctoral training. She earned a PhD in molecular biophysics and biochemistry at Yale University and an SB in chemistry from MIT. Now, I'm very happy that we have Dr. Yellin here because we tried to do a session with her a few years ago. It was during COVID, and we did not have any takers for the presentation, which was very unfortunate. But now I'm glad we have another opportunity to do this, and we have a full complement of audience members from UTSA and other institutions around Texas. So, Dr. Yellin, I will turn it over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm so thankful for the invitation, Dr. Mathur, Schaefer, and Josie. Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me to speak to you today. And so in my presentation, I'm going to talk a little bit about my career path and how I get to where I am, and then introduce you to a little bit to the organization I work at, the Association of American Medical Colleges, or AAMC. Describe my role, and then also I'm going to just show you a few examples of some of the things that I've worked on, and so you get an idea of what I do. Um, so the first thing I was going to do is just tell you a little bit of background about myself and how I got interested in a career in science policy. And so, as was mentioned in the introduction, I went to MIT for my undergrad, and I loved it. I had a great experience. Um, I chose my major chemistry because of a graduate student in chemistry who was one of my teaching assistants, and he was just so excited by what he did that um, it rubbed off on me. And I decided to join a research lab. And I had the benefit of joining a lab that it was a brand new assistant professor, and so no graduate students or postdocs at the time, and so I had his full attention to help get things started. Um, and he did structural biology research. Um, I never really, unlike some people like who really know like at a young age like what they want to do, I never really had a clear view of what I wanted to do, but I really loved working in the lab and loved science, and I was like, okay, well maybe I'll go to grad school. So I landed at Yale in the molecular biophysics and biochemistry department. I ended up working in a pharmacology lab in the medical school, and also did structural biology research using X-ray crystallography. Um, I started in grad school really trying to think about what I wanted to do next. Unlike today, where you have these types of talks, um, there wasn't so much organized career development. We, as graduate students, ourselves organized a career symposium every year, and I got involved in putting that together. Um, And I remember in one particular symposium, one of the years, there was a speaker who was talking about all the things that you can do as a PhD. And that really got me thinking and exploring what I wanted to do, checking out the career office at Yale, getting involved. Um, and I was still not really sure what I wanted to do. So I went on and I did do a postdoc. Um, but because I didn't want, because maybe I want to go into stay in academia, maybe not. Um, but during my postdoc, I heard about this fellowship at the National Academies, called the Christine Marzian Science and Technology Policy, um, Fellowship. And about 3 months, is the length of the fellowship. Right in the middle of my postdoc, I went to pursue that. And it was really like eye-opening, that there were people talking about how we get the science done, the people who are doing the work. And it was just, opened up my eyes, and I was like, that's what I want to do. And opened up my eyes to what like science policy was. Um, the fellowship is still going on. It started in 1997. Um, and I think right now they're doing a session. I was looking it up. Mid-July was when it opened. The applications opened up last year. But the session is now being held in the spring. I didn't see any information about when next year's will open, and hopefully there'll be funding to continue this program. I think it's really awesome. If you may not be ready to commit to like a full year, I know there's like other programs like the AAAS fellowship program and such out there, but it just really gives you a taste of like what it is to work on, the policy side of things. And I highly recommend it. If you're interested, and feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. I got to work on a particular project. I was on the board of higher education of the workforce in the National Academies. They were doing a project on graduate education assessment, which was like perfect for someone who was interested in kind of, the experience of being a graduate student and a postdoc. And so it was really, really great. I went back to my postdoc and I was like, oh, I kind of know what I want to do. And I met so many people and did so many informational interviews while I was in that fellowship, that it just kind of opened up my eyes to opportunities pursuing something in more of the science policy area. And I was also lucky enough to make connections in my fellowship, to end up getting my job here at the AAMC. And I've been here for over 20 years already. And it just really happens because of the network that I made at the academies. The mentor that I had there knew I was job hunting and wanted to move into a policy team, and they had relationships with staff at the AMC already. And so anyway, that connection happened and I got my position and I've been here ever since. Um, so now I was going to give you a little background about what the AMC was for those that are interested. So AMC is a not-for-profit association based in DC area. Although we have employees now all over the 48 contiguous states. In the US. Um, and we're dedicated to the academic medicine community to improve the health of people everywhere. Its members are the 172 accredited US and Canadian medical schools, almost 500 teaching hospitals and health systems, and over 70 academic societies. So we don't have individual members. You become a member by being at one of those member institutions or hospitals or societies. We like to think about ourselves as three organizations in one. So, being a member organization and doing work to support our members. A think tank, having experts that follow national trends and work on issues in academic medicine. Um, that is, another aspect of what we do. And then we also are a service organization. Most of you have probably heard of the MCAT, the application service for medical schools, or AMCAS, or the residency application service. So we do a lot of services around the medical school pathway at the AMC. So we engage our members. A lot of the engagement happens through our affinity groups. And so there's 3 councils, 2 organizations, and 18 professional development groups. And in my intro, we talked about GREAT, which is the group on research, education, and training. And that is the group that I work most closely with. I was actually initially hired at AMC to be the person who was the main point for GREAT and constituents, the GREAT group and its constituents. And I also work, I've highlighted GRANT, the group on research, advancement, and development, and that is a group for the research leadership at our member medical schools. So now I transition to talk a little bit about my role at the AMC. And so I had the pie chart of the 3 kind of over 3 roles of AMC. I see my position as having 3 overlapping roles. So the first is policy. So really monitoring what's happening at the national level and at the institutional level as well, around research training and the workforce. Really following what's happening in the news, going to meetings, talking with people at our institutions to really know what's happening on the ground. Collaborating with colleagues to disseminate information to constituents. So AMC has a number of communication channels, including newsletter, for example. And so that's how we disseminate that. We comment on new initiatives and policies when opportunities arise. And then we are also I also serve as a go-to person for other people at the AMC, including our government relations staff, for example, around policy issues and shaping what our position as an organization is on those issues related to my area of expertise, which is the research, biomedical research training, and workforce issues. The other part of my role is around supporting our constituents. And so, as I mentioned, when I was first hired, I directly managed GREAT and the work of GREAT. Now I serve as a partner for GREAT. There's a team that I work with that really supports the day-to-day operation of GREAT. GREAT is a professional development group. That group meets annually for an in-person meeting. We host community calls for folks in the research training space to really gather as a community and exchange information and learn from each other. And I think that's really one of the strong parts of what AMC does. We are great at convening and getting people together to learn from each other. We also use our communities to gather information and know what's happening on the ground, as I said. And so it really informs, if we're going to respond to a request for information, for example, from NIH, what are we going to say? And we listen to the community and get that feedback, and that shapes, what we're going to say and what input we're going to say on those things. And then GREAT also has a number of subcommittees and have done projects through the years. Some are long-standing committees. For example, there's a group within GREAT that is really involved in, going to some national events to kind of communicate what it is to be a PhD and get potential graduate students interested in biomedical research careers and answer their questions about the application process and such. And then the third part of my pie, and all of these are overlapping, they really are. So, but the third part of my pie is really around the, engaging in projects and program management as well. And those I'm going to talk about a little bit later on, as I give you examples of some of the things that I've done in my career here at the AAMC. So many of the skills that you've learned in research training can be applied to so many different careers. Um, Analytical thinking and problem solving, time management, communication, resilience. All of these skills are really attractive to employers and will be beneficial to you as you embark on whatever careers you choose after training in graduate school or as a postdoctoral scholar. And here I just made a list, and I don't need to read them all, of some of the things that I utilize regularly in as I'm doing my job here at the AAMC. Um, if you're interested in policy positions, it's really important to emphasize all these different types of skills that you have and have gained and show how you've applied those skills. You should tailor your resume or CV for those specific positions and highlight your most relevant experiences and what you can bring to the table. I just wanted to pause and just acknowledge that right now there's a lot of uncertainty in biomedical research, and many of you are reflecting on your next steps in your career. And it is a really great time to assess what you value as a person, what is going to be important for you to do, what you enjoy doing, and what you want to give back to your community and society, and like how that aligns with the skills that you have. And that's really important to help you to make decisions about what your next steps in your career can be. Because training in academic research has just given you so many different skills that can be applied to many, many different types of careers. So now I was going to transition and give you a few examples of some of the work I've done over the last 20 years. And there's been a huge evolution in biomedical research training over the 20 years. When I started was really just the start of the formation of postdoctoral offices, for example. There was not a centralized place for postdocs to go to get career development. When I was a postdoc, I had trouble even getting a library card because I was funded by a source outside of the institution, and they didn't even recognize me within the institution. And so there was like a whole big deal to be able to get a library card during my postdoc. So much has really changed. And I just want to give examples because I hope it'll give you a little bit of a sense of some of the types of work that I do. So one of the things that I've seen a huge evolution in is the recognition of the multiple careers. So as we were chatting before we formally started, it really, like when you did a PhD, the default was, oh, you're going to go into academic research position. And here I just show like, an example of some of the careers, and this is not even fully comprehensive. Careers in research, consulting, communication, science policy, education administration. And sometimes people forget when you say academia, you assume it's academic research, but there's so many different careers in academia itself, working in a postdoc office or working in a graduate student office and helping the next generation is an awesome career pathway. And many PhDs have gone into those types of careers. I put up a couple screenshots here from an NIH working group that was back in 2012. So that's a long time ago for some of you. And they had a report on the biomedical workforce, and there's been a lot of reports, including those from the national academies around, calling attention to issues in, sustaining, the biomedical research workforce. But this one gained a lot of attention and really gave a lot of recognition to all of the careers um, that folks are going into. I don't, there was some like talk about this, but I think this really elevated that. And it really ended up launching BEST. So NIH had a program called BEST, Broadening Experiences in Scientific Training, to provide institutions with financial support to prepare individuals for a broad range of careers. And while those programs are not, funded anymore from NIH. Um, the career development has become a much bigger part of graduate and postdoctoral training than prior to those programs. And really career, like I said, like folks who with a PhD going into that career development space as a career themselves. Um, I also wanted to touch on another working group. So I was on this working group. It was launched in December of 2022. And so the NIH Advisory Committee to the director had a working group on re-envisioning postdoctoral training. Um, and the formation of the working group was driven by concerns about recruiting postdocs and the postdoctoral experience itself, including compensation and training quality. And our working group had a number of listening sessions and requests for information to get feedback from the community. And as part of my role in the AMC, I coordinated with colleagues here to get feedback from the AMC community as well. And the feedback that we got from the AMC community really aligns well with the recommendations that ended up coming out of the working group. And in here I list those 6 broad categories of recommendations, and you can look, the report is still available on the website. It first came out in December of 2023, and so there's been a little movement in terms of the increase of pay and benefits for postdoctoral scholars. And I'm hoping that the community will continue to advance these recommendations as we move in the future as well. The next topic I wanted to highlight was around mentorship. And so this is another area that has really greatly evolved over the years, really recognizing the importance of mentorship. So in collaboration with GREAT, I helped to coordinate the development of these compacts that I'm showing you, the compacts between postdoctoral appointees and their mentors, and also the AMC compact between biomedical graduate students and their research advisors. We did the first versions back in 2006 and 2008, and then we did another revamp of them. And now it's already almost 10 years ago since we did the revamp in 2016. And that was really done to recognize the broad careers for which graduate students and postdocs are entering. And I just want also put on here on this slide, in 2019, the National Academies released a report and resources from a study on the science of effective mentorship in STEM. And so during these times, especially during times of uncertainty, mentorship relationships are more important than ever. And that's why I wanted to highlight this work. And then the last thing that I wanted to highlight was around creating community. And so also in my bio, it was mentioned that I'm the PI for AMC's Mosaic program. It's a NIH-funded program maximizing opportunities for scientific and academic independent careers with the goal of facilitating transition of postdocs from diverse backgrounds into faculty careers. And unfortunately, just a few weeks ago, we learned that the program is going to be ending. We have funding through the end of July. Right now, we still have funding. Our current grant hasn't been terminated, but the program itself has been terminated. But I wanted to share this with you because there's so many lessons that I have learned from the development of this program and from interaction with these wonderful scholars that we have. Um, Scholars receive funding, a K-99 R00 award from NIH, so they get up to 2 years of funding as a postdoc and up to 3 as a faculty member. Um, Similar to the K-99 R00 that already existed prior to the launch of Mosaic. And then the UE5, we were one of the 3 original cooperative agreement UE5 grants given from NIH. We provided extra skills building, team building, an additional mentor. We matched all the scholars with an additional mentor, career development programming. But really the most important thing was that we created a community. So AMC's program has 61 scholars that have been matched with us over the last um, 4 years. We were supposed to get matched with 5 scholars a year, but a lot of the NIH institutes really were excited about this program and the goal of the program. And so they started funding scholars. And so we got many more than we thought we were going to have. But the scholars really benefited from having this new network, from the networking with the scholars themselves, that they were all on the academic research path, and not everyone was from an institution that had a big network of other folks that were at the same career stage as them. They benefited from having AMC identified mentors. Um, the topics of the mentorship was different between those mentors who are outside of their institutions and their own institutional mentors. Um, and we really listened to scholar feedback through for this program and change things up based on the evaluations that we would receive over the years. Um, and so the lessons learned from this program are going to be just really helpful, I think, in the development of future programs, and the benefit that these scholars have gotten from being part of the program, even though for some of them it's ending early. I think are just really going to help them move forward in their career, and they have this network still, which they wouldn't have had otherwise, which is really awesome. So I'd like to end by encouraging you to continue to explore all the career options that are open to you, and to take advantage of resources, those at your institution that are organizing, helping organize this webinar today, reaching out to folks who are doing different types of positions and to expand your network. People love to share their stories. And so, um, even informally reaching out and just saying, hey, can we chat? I'd love to hear how you ended up where you are. I encourage you to do that and to connect with folks. And yeah, feel free to reach out to me also. I have my email address here. And so with that, I'm going to close and see what kind of questions folks have.